Welcome to the Social Media Church podcast. I'm Neil Smith, joined by my friend Mark Appleton, who is the Vice President of Internet Evangelism at the Billy Graham Evangelical Association. Mark, thanks so much for joining us.
Man, thanks for having me on, Nils.
So you have one of the coolest titles that I've ever heard of. And I've got so many questions. It is a mouthful, but I think maybe. Yeah, where to begin with? Well, let's maybe start with Billy Graham Evangelical Association. So, a lot of people know Billy Graham, and Billy Graham Evangelical Association probably encompasses a lot of things. Can you, for those who might not be familiar with all that BGEA does, what does Billy Graham Evangelical Association do?
So, Billy Graham Evangelistic Association is still the same organization founded by Mr. Graham, Billy Graham. Back in late 40s, early 50s. And so part of what we do is still the original heart intent of the organization, proclamation evangelism. So Mr. Graham's son, Franklin Graham, is an evangelist himself and still does traditional proclamation evangelism events, mobilizing the church in a community, gather people in stadiums, stand up, preach the gospel clearly, boldly, invite people to respond, and then send people into those churches, into that community. And so that kind of classic evangelistic mission purpose still happening. And then we do other ministries that are all around the heart of evangelism and sharing the gospel. We have a rapid response ministry that shares the hope of the gospel in crisis situations, man-made and natural disasters. They deploy to help people in their community, pray with folks, and just bring the gospel to bear there. And then internet evangelism is also one of the core ministries of the past 10 years or so here. And it's taking that same idea, but leverage digital tools and technology to proclaim the gospel. So just like Billy Graham would fill stadiums, Franklin Graham fill stadiums, we use social media, digital strategies to attain an online audience, share the gospel with them, disciple them, and try to send them off into local communities. So the ministry is still very active all over the globe, and a lot of good things happen.
Yeah, I want to dig in to those things. I think people probably have the question of, how do you become the Vice President of Internet Evangelism? What was your journey into this role?
Accidentally and by the sovereignty of God. How's that for a simple answer?
That's good. Yeah.
I wish I could say I schemed my way into this job, but it wouldn't be true. The short version is I was a mechanical engineer by education. The Lord called me out of that into full-time ministry. Originally, that was on college campus as a college pastor, campus minister. And then I ended up at BGEA 15 years ago, while I was attending seminary, and what I thought at the time was equipping myself to go plant a church or pastor. And I was working here as a day job while I was doing seminary, and with eyes set on that. And then in 2011, the leadership here decided, hey, we're going to try using the internet for gospel proclamation. They pulled together a small team of 3 people to originally test it out, just see if it was a viable ministry. And long story short, I was one of those 3 people. Wasn't the leader of it at the time, but the leader that they assigned to get it going had a conversation with me, asked if I would join the team and try to build out a ministry around it, and prayed about it and decided, well, here, I told him I would stay for a year. So
okay.
Again, not great career
I've heard
advice,
that story
but
before.
To say, I'll take that job and I'm going to leave in a year. But that's, I still thought at that point that this was just something God was doing in the interim until I went to pastor. And well, from there, the ministry just took off.
Well, let's talk about that. The early days. Where did you start? So 2011 is when you guys started doing internet evangelism. What was your approach in 2011 to internet evangelism?
So pretty traditional, heavy Google advertising network strategy. So Google search display ads, driving to landing pages, where there's a
And
simple
what did you have
gospel
on those landing
presentation.
pages? Okay, like a video back then, or was it like a text
Mostly
driven, or
text. We
what did that
actually
look like?
tested video,
Yeah,
and found that we had higher bounce rates. This was back
yeah,
then. We ditched the videos. We made videos because we thought they would be cool and engaging, and
yeah,
we got more people to engage and actually submit forms and go into our follow-up
yeah,
process on our pure text pages. So while we had
yeah.
some, we primarily pushed the text landing pages. Yeah.
Okay, so you're running a lot of Google ads to landing pages, text-based landing pages to a
Yep.
form, and then you basically had follow-up systems, and that was Internet Evangelism 1.0.
Yep. And we had a chat feature layered on there, which we still have. So there was a little bit of live engagement available on the page
Okay,
right from the beginning. But basically, that was
yeah,
live chat or submit an email were the two main options. And then we
very
also
good.
had an online discipleship course they could sign up for after that part of
Okay,
the sequence, where they would be mentored by a
yeah,
volunteer as well. So
that's awesome. And that discipleship course, was that via email, or was that like in a
it was in
LMS, or
LMS. It
what
was
was
in
the
a
system
Moodle
in that?
environment, a
Okay,
customized Moodle
Moodle,
environment
yeah,
that was built by another group that we knew in Europe that we were partnering with them and using the technology. So, yeah.
yeah. Very good. I don't know if Moodle is still a thing, but I remember I went to seminary online at Rockbridge Seminary, probably about 2010, and it was all in Moodle, and I learned a little bit, back then about that was kind of the kind of OG LMS, and yeah, it's a fascinating progression. So, what was 2.0? Where did progression as you began to see traction there with the Google search to landing pages? Where did you go from there?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest shift was the social media element that I would say probably 2018 is when we started, which probably a little late to the game. We were in social media, and we had a Peace with God, which is our kind of evangelistic um, brand or evangelistic websites. We had a Peace with God Facebook page, but we weren't actively managing it. We linked people to it, posted content. It wasn't an intentional social media strategy. Um,
Yeah,
but we started exploring that really in 2018 as we brought on our new Arabic ministry. We shifted and developed that ministry completely focused on a social media strategy first. Um, we put up a website, had some landing pages, but that was not our main strategy. And as that developed in Arabic and we got some experience with that, we started applying those learnings back across some of our other languages. Yeah.
that's awesome. That's awesome. So kind of kept expanding to social, expanding languages. What today, when it comes to what you do and what your team is doing, what does internet evangelism look like in 2023?
Yeah. Well, there's some core things that are still pretty much the same that we haven't changed, and that's we have a huge volunteer base that's a part of this ministry, and so we haven't moved on from that. That's still a core part of our ministry. There's about 1,600 of them now, um, and so still, regardless of the tools we're using, we're trying to engage people in conversation with our volunteers to have person-person interaction.
Yeah,
But as far as that outward funnel, yeah, it's much more social media dominant now. Facebook ads primarily. We still do the Google search and display, but
yeah,
probably the biggest focus is through Facebook, just with its flexibility. We do run Instagram ads, some TikTok in different contexts. Where we our number one communication channels right now that those volunteers are talking to people through are WhatsApp, number one, Facebook Messenger,
mm-hmm.
number two, and then in some contexts we're having very low volume levels of conversations. We've tried some things in Telegram and even Twitter, Instagram, Instagram messaging, and then in some other contexts we'll probably be exploring some other tools that are more kind of local specific. But
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And so, hey guys, it's Neil Smith, and I'm interrupting this episode to highlight one of our sponsors. And this sponsors is one of the companies that I recently acquired, and it's a company called Church Press. And I was blown away when I found out about Church Press, and it is the most SEO optimized, search engine optimization, optimized website platform for churches. And it is one price, and it covers everything you need to have a great website presence, to design, set up a beautiful website that works great, but I think most importantly is found by Google so that people can find your church. And so if you want to upgrade your website or build a new website, we would love to help. Go to churchpress.co and you get more information and learn more. We also have a free SEO audit that you can get right there on the website of your website. So if you want to see how optimized your website is, just go to churchpress.co, and you don't have to sign up for anything. It's totally free. And we would love to help you build a better website that is found by Google. Let's get back to the episode. The fun conversation that I like to get to is where is this going? What do you, as you look on the horizon of what you've learned over the last decade, plus now in internet evangelism, and as you look to kind of the progression of technology with AI, maybe most significantly right now, or even metaverse, what are you looking to, and what do you maybe see as some of the next horizon opportunities?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, there's a lot of ministries already using AI to triage messages, to kind of filter through those who are responding online and passing contacts off to their volunteers or responders. That's not even futuristic, right? Some folks have been doing that for a few years. We're evaluating some of that ourselves. The metaverse thing, I'm trying to, so we are exploring that. We have some headsets where we've kind of thought through what does mobilizing evangelism in this context look like. In our context, we try to think global, large scale. Like, how could we mobilize people to do this in a large scale, not just say, hey, Tommy, put on your headset and go share the gospel. Could we equip and train and deploy people in that? And I do think immersive experiences are coming. It's just, I've gone back and forth on the timeline. I felt like it was coming more quickly, and then I don't know that we're going to get to like ubiquitous state in the near future. I think there's just like there's too many hurdles for like mass scale adoption of that, what that kind of looks like. But there'll certainly be a need for that, regardless of whether mainstream everybody buys into. I mean, you have gaming communities, you have whole communities of people who that is their reality and existence, and you're not going to reach them unless you enter their world. So I think it's necessary. Whether it's going to encapsulate everything, I'm still hesitant to say that. And some people are like all in. Everybody's going to be in the metaverse in the next 5 years, whatever. I'm not quite there, but
I'm not either. I'm not either. But it is a new ground to take, though, for sure. But probably not for everyone either. You have a unique, just position of you are in this you basically forefront of digital evangelism and pioneering spaces that basically nobody has ever gone to before. But you also have, you're bivocational as a local pastor too. And in your local church ministry, in what you know and have learned about digital marketing and digital evangelism, and in the seat of being a pastor, and how those tools then transfer to your local church, what do you see maybe for church leaders that they're missing, and maybe even where do you push your local church to, like, we need to be doing more of this to better reach our community through these digital tools?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think about this a lot. And to be honest, I have tension with this question, because as a pastor, there's things about these mediums that I think can be unhealthy. I shouldn't say they are in and of themselves. I see scripture, even back in a day, thousands of years ago, when we didn't have all of these things pulling at us, still scripture saying, slow down, slow to speak, slow to anger, be present with people, give people your lives. Like there's this impulse, there's this push to dwell with God, let God dwell with you, dwell with people, and minister out of that. That takes a slowness, it takes an awareness and a stillness that social media in our technology age pushes completely against in the other direction. So this isn't directly answering your question yet, but I'm just sharing like the tension I feel that as a pastor, I want people to hear that and kind of check themselves in that way as far as their own spiritual growth. But then the reality is this is our context. This is where God's allowed the world to go. And and if we are not communicating with people in this space, we are more and more not communicating with our people. So because it is, these things aren't just tools anymore, right? They're not just something we play with or we go use once in a while. They're integrated in society. It's the way people relate. It's the way people engage with life. It's the way they look up what they're interested in. It's the way they check out things that they're cautious about. And so if you are ignoring those tools, then increasingly are disconnected with the people that you're called to pastor and reach. So I know I kind of talk to two sides of that equation because I think some pastors might be leaning towards the stuff I mentioned at the beginning, like these things are dangerous or they push against what God wants for us. And I would just say the tools themselves, yes, they offer temptations that fight good, godly impulses or desires, what God wants for us. But the tools themselves don't make us who we are. And so push people towards godliness, but don't ignore the factors that are contributing to how our society is functioning, or else you're going to lose your voice in the community that you're called to lead. So.
Boy, that is so good. I think people would expect somebody in your shoes to just say, just get over your your concerns and press in to these technologies. And I think you being on the forefront of it, understanding so much of it, is to express those cautions and to understand the tension that I think pastors have to navigate is important. And so I appreciate you speaking into that tension. And I think it's important too. You're being in, that local church context and having this kind of global church movement that you're driving and leading that is so significant and fascinating. How maybe speaking to another tension in what you and I kind of both do in a lot of this digital evangelism work that we do, or I'll tell you my biggest tension. I say tension. My biggest problem is I get shiny object syndrome, and so I see metaverse and I want to chase it. I see AI and I want to chase it. I see a new social. I see threads. I see whatever it might be, and I want to pursue all the new things. And when you do that, you end up just being way over distributed. Inefficient. You lack focus. How have you prioritized innovation while also navigating, just preventing yourself from having shiny object syndrome and chasing every new technology shiny object?
Yeah, no, it's absolutely attention. So two different things come to mind. So one, early on, 10 years ago, there's a guy on our team that really pushed us with this acronym POST. It's not unique to us. You might have heard it. People, Objectives, Strategy, Tools. So, and you have to get the order right. Everybody jumps to the tool. I want to use the shiny object. I want to use the cool new technology. But that's actually last in this progression. People first. Who are you trying to reach? Who are you called to reach? Objective. What are you trying to accomplish? What do you want them to do? So then what strategies will you deploy to try to get them to do that, or to help them do that? Okay, now what technology do we need to make that happen? And And so that's been
Yes.
something that's been a framework for how we evaluate things, to try to keep us, okay, yeah, this is great, but who are we trying to reach? What are we trying to do? Does this fit? And different ministries have different answers to that question, right?
Yeah.
Our scale is pretty broad. We're kind of thin and wide, and so we have to think about things that would have a broad reach, not necessarily just a niche audience. And
Yeah.
other ministries go deep in a local community, and so maybe a niche product that's being adopted in that particular area is what they should get into, where it wouldn't be appropriate for me. So that's kind of one side of it. And then on a practical side, I don't want to not be considering innovation. So one thing I've done on my team is I created an innovation team that's pulled people from across my group who have work in different parts of it. And once a month we get together, we evaluate new ideas. They do kind of special side projects that really don't fit into our main ministry flow or strategy, and just testing out ideas. It gives people a creative outlet, and then it's kind of a feeder of things that we might be able to do in the future. So that's kind of a practical way that I've approached that.
Yeah.
Because I work in a pretty conservative, slow-moving ministry, and that's okay. That's who we are. We still have to have an outlet for innovating and giving the team an outlet to think through those things themselves. So,
Yeah. I love it. I love it. It's I think that's an important process to work through. I think that that post strategy is something I think every probably church or organization, I think for that matter, needs to navigate through and work through with your priorities and where to shift and how to adapt to new things. Mark, I'm curious, in your years of doing, and I'm sure you have thousands of stories, but is there one story that maybe first comes to mind of, this is why we do what we do? This is the fruit of the effort. Because I think in some ways, and when you do internet evangelism, you get caught up in, and I say caught up in, but the important data points of, like, we reached 1,000 people and 12 gospel presentations of this. But is there maybe even a life change story you're like, this is why we do what we do, that comes to mind?
yeah, 4 or 5 do. So I'll try.
Okay, maybe pick a couple. I'd love to hear
Yeah.
some.
Let me share 2 for 2 different reasons. So
Yeah.
one was this woman, Mary Ann. I've told the story recently several times just because I love the picture of it. She's a bus driver out in California, and she was sitting on her bus and waiting for the kids to be dismissed from school. So she's sitting in an empty bus. Think about that picture. And she had been considering her spiritual state a lot lately. It had been on her mind. And there she was, sitting in the bus waiting for the kids to come out, kind of like that calm before the storm. You picture the
Yeah.
quiet bus, and it's about to be exploded with kids and noise. And she was considering her eternity right then. And she gets on her phone, ends up on our Peace with God website, chats with one of our people, talks to them. She had been exploring some things, so this wasn't her first exposure to the gospel. And right there, God drew her heart to full faith, and she accepted Christ in the chat. And what I love about that is it shows the power and the accessibility of internet evangelism, social media as a ministry tool, because we all have these moments where God's pulling at us that are not necessarily convenient for office hours at a church, or when your best friend's available to talk. But in those moments, now, everybody has this in their hand, and it's an outlet to communicate. And someone was there to answer her question about the gospel in the time of the need. So just a simple but powerful story to me that happens by the thousands in our ministry. And but that's illustrative of it. The other one, really quick, is just so much is happening in the Middle East and in places where Franklin Graham cannot go preach in person, or in most preachers can't. And so we've recently had someone who trains imams in a Muslim school there, very high religious official who has come on our website. Our Arabic ministry has a professed faith in Jesus, and kind of we're quietly talking to them about that, and going to be pretty vague about that situation. But this person had begun to question things in their society, and this is a person who is training the religious leaders who are leading some pretty fanatical people, very influential. And what outlet does that person have to actually explore Christianity when they have questions? None.
Right.
Or else they'll be killed. And that gentleman has been conversing with us for 3 or 4 months, and has expressed a faith in Jesus and is still talking about that. So two stories that illustrate different aspects of why the ministry is so powerful and why we do it. I tell people all the time, because this stuff, you can throw out stats galore with digital ministry, and it's like, man, we can miss the big picture with that. At the end of the day, if people's lives aren't being transformed, if the Mary Anns aren't suddenly a new a new creation, birthed through Jesus, walking with the Lord forever, then we're just wasting our time. That's why we're doing all of this. So.
Yeah, that's so good. I think it's such a good reminder of why we do what we do, and sometimes connecting the dots of what those numbers often represent that we forget that they're representing, and the just the importance. I was just having a conversation with somebody that was connected to Life Church in Oklahoma, and they were talking about how their father accepted Christ through church online there, and how just meaningful church online is still to her because of the life change she tangibly saw in her dad, who would have never gone to a physical church. And but you never know those unique situations and moments, and until you kind of really have that interaction with the individual. And it's awesome to hear and see. Mark, I'm so grateful for the unique work that you're pioneering and innovating. Any other maybe thoughts and insights to church leaders that you would just encourage them when it comes to digital ministry and what the opportunities are, potential is as they lean into technology to further their ministry goals?
Yeah, I mean, I think in general, as you asked that, 2 different groups come to mind with different needs, right? You probably have the pastors that are already in the weeds or they have every new digital device that has come out. They're looking for a reason to play with it in their ministry. And so to them, I would just say, yeah, go for it, but maybe be reminded of some of those things we talked about, like people objective strategies, tools. That you're gonna confuse people or just wear them out if everything's always changing and everything's always new. So maybe put some people in your life that can kind of help you focus your energies there. And the other group I'm thinking is those that this is all pretty intimidating. They got into ministry to love people, and man, I don't want to learn social media. I don't want to use technology. I just want to preach the word and share the gospel. And I would say, don't let it intimidate you, in the sense it doesn't have to be complicated. Choose something. Pick one tool that that your people are involved in, that use regularly, and just start simple and small. Don't let the bigness of it all and the potential complication of it all keep you from stepping out and trying to serve them in this way. Because really, one way to look at it is we're called to serve people as pastors, and learning some of these new things is a way that we should be trying to serve people, because it's their norm. It's what they live and work in. And so we're not serving them if we just say, I'm not going to put in the energy to figure any of that out. You just need to adapt to me. No,
Yes.
we need to learn to adapt to communicate to them. So
Yeah. That's so good. That's so good. I want to just challenge everyone that's listening to this is just write out that post strategy and just go back to who is it that God's calling you to reach, and then I think then work through it from there. But boy, I am so convicted because I am the technology guy that wants to just jump right to the technology tool, and find an excuse to align a ministry purpose. That's just wrong. That's never the right and best approach. And so I love that challenge, Mark. Mark, thanks so much for taking the time to be on here. If people are interested in Billy Graham Evangelical Association, maybe even volunteering or partnering at all with BGEA, where should they go?
Yeah, thanks, Nils. Well, for the Internet Evangelism Ministry, searchforjesus.net. Search for Jesus, all written together, .net is kind of the front door for our volunteering and being a part of internet ministry. If you're interested in just the broader work of BGA, it's billygraham.org. You can see all that's going on there.
Awesome. Well, we will leave those links in the show notes at socialmedia.church. So make sure you go and check those out. And Mark, we appreciate your time and appreciate everyone listening. We will talk to you again on the next episode.
Great. Thanks, Nils.